Hello everyone, this video is called Memorize the Amino Acids for the Girlies, but really I hope everyone can find this useful. So for these amino acids, I want you to imagine them all as characters, different people, maybe people you'll encounter at a nightclub, at a party, or on a dating app. And as you go through all these, just think to yourself, would you swipe left or right? I'm going to tell little stories about these amino acids, so hopefully it'll help to remember their structure and their properties. And you just have to have 2 or 3 key words for each amino acid that will help you remember the story. So let's start with glycine. I like to call him glycine. He's the simple guy. He just has an H. Next up is alanine. I like to call him a little more to offer. So instead of just a hydrogen, he has a CH3, a methyl group. Up next, we have phenylalanine. I like to think pheno, fine, refined, F for flashy. He's rich. He wears a lot of rings, a lot of jewelry. So just remember the ring. Up next, we have tyrosine, frat boy Tyler. So he also has a ring, so think of rich, flashy, maybe he has rich parents. And he also has an alcohol group, so he's in college and maybe he drinks a little too much. Next up, we have valine. I like to think of V for very proportional. And this is where we start to see our amino acid diagrams as stick figures. So if you use your imagination, you see the top hydrogen as the head, the alpha carbon maybe as the chest, the CH as the torso. So you can imagine everything is one segment. So his neck, one segment. His body, one segment. His legs, one segment. Everything is 1, 1, 1, and this is going to contrast to some of the amino acids we'll see in the next slides. Now we're up to leucine, and L for long torso. A bit silly, but you can see how the structure of leucine as a stick figure kind of contrasts with valine that we saw in the previous slide. Next is isoleucine, so an isomer of leucine. He has kind of all the same parts as leucine, but he's like, hey, I want longer legs. I'm going to rearrange my segments. But he kind of ran out of segments. So, now he has one long leg and one short leg. And maybe that's a bit unfortunate for him. Serine and threonine. They're here in America on spring break and they are here to party. So hopefully you can remember the alcohol groups. And they're brothers. Serine is the younger brother, threonine is the older brother. Serine is not very balanced. He's all about partying. Whereas threonine, he's older, he's a little bit more mature, he's more grounded. That's why he has the 2 legs. So while he does like partying and he has that alcohol group, it's not his entire life. And you have to remember that things with the alcohol groups can be phosphorylated, they can get a P, so if you drink too much, you might end up puking. Cysteine and methionine, the meatheads, the gym bros. Okay, this is where the stories start to get a little crazy. So they're super into hitting their protein goals. Maybe they have a lot of protein powder, a lot of eggs, and unfortunately, as a result, they tend to have some flatulence that smells like sulfur. So, that high protein diet, not the best. That's how you can remember the sulfur groups. Now, cysteine, you see him and right away you know he's a gym bro. There's no hiding it. That's why it's at the end of his chain. It's very obvious on the surface. Methionine, he's a little better at hiding it, but once you start to peel back the layers, you'll realize that he's a gym bro as well. As for cysteine, one way I like to remember it, perhaps he abuses anabolic steroids and maybe he has some cystic acne on his back. Another reason why his gym bro habits are very evident. Here we have aspartate, or as I like to call him, the alpha male. Now, he's generally a pretty negative person, and he likes to listen to those alpha male podcasts. How I remember this is his first three letters, ASP. Now, asparagine and aspartate both have the same first three letters, ASP. So when they were deciding who gets the abbreviation, aspartate is like, I'm the alpha male, those letters are mine. And asparagine, being the nice guy he is like, yep, aspartate, just take them. It's fine. The letter D, because he is a D-bag, not a nice person. Glutamate is the same thing, just with an extra segment, and his letter is E because he is a follower, a groupie. He just agrees with and does whatever aspartate does. Asparagine, he's the little asparagus, and he wants to grow his legs. He just wants to make his legs a little bit longer. So being an asparagus, a plant, he's like, how can I grow my legs? He's like, maybe I'll try some oxygen and some nitrogen fertilizer. Let's see if that works. He's kind of doing a science experiment on himself. Glutamine is kind of the same thing with just an extra segment. I call him cutamine. He's a cutie. That helps me remember the letter Q. Arginine. Another story that kind of goes off the rails. He's the positive pirate or Frankenstein. I'll explain both. So arginine, the positive pirate, he's like, arg, mateys, gather around and let me tell you guys the story of the time I tried to grow my legs, just like you. And then, he ended up obviously with a super long torso and, his legs still aren't any longer. So that's kind of where I bring in the Frankenstein as well. He tried the same experiment on himself to elongate his legs, and it was not successful. Lysine, the lovable, positive golden retriever, he talks to all the others and he's like, hey guys, like, why are you trying to grow your legs in the first place? Like, what's wrong with having, a long torso? I don't even have legs and I'm happy. He's not the most creative guy either. So, when he was deciding what to put at the end of his chain, he looked to his left hand, he looked to his right, he saw the NH3+, plus. He's like, that'll do, and he kind of just slaps that on the bottom of his chain. For Lysine or Lyle, his mom was deciding whether to name him Lyle or Kyle, K for Kyle, but ultimately she decided to go with Lyle. Proline. I like to think of him as the resourceful pro or the underdog. He has a ring as well, but what's interesting about his ring is that he kind of made it from his amino acid backbone. So if you remember earlier on, all the guys with the rings, phenylalanine, tyrosine, they were rich. Proline is not rich. He came from very humble beginnings, but despite that, he was still able to find some success for himself, make a ring for himself, despite his limited resources, and that is truly inspirational. Tryptophan, the thing that's in turkey that supposedly makes people sleepy on Thanksgiving. Tryptophan's a bigger guy. Maybe he could lose a few pounds. He ate way too much on Thanksgiving, and I just remember him as being kind of a bigger guy, and that's why he has the 2 rings. For the last slide, for tryptophan, I forgot to mention aromatic. Thanksgiving dinner tends to smell really good while it's cooking. Now histidine is our last one of the video. I think of this as Trip's weight loss journey. So histidine, his stomach fell off. Instead of 2 rings, he just has 1. Another kind of silly story, but that's kind of how I remember the difference.